Thanks. My name is Mike Thornton. I'm the former News and Public Affairs Director for KVMR FM Radio in Nevada City, California. Tom, we met several years ago when you came there for our Circle Film Festival. I now live in Sacramento. We have no real progressive radio. I listen to most, if not all of you, online every day. I guess my question is, you know, how do we not wind up where all the real progressive radio that's available are the same 5 to 7 voices? I mean, I love what you do, don't get me wrong, and I respect it, but, you know, how do we promote and protect localism in this burgeoning progressive radio industry so it's not just Nicole and Thom and Sam and everybody that we're hearing all the time as it was with Rush and Sean and all of them? Because there are, you know, I mean, there's a real danger in that, and I kind of see that that's sort of what's happening and where this is going.
Let me just address that from my perspective. I mean, the broader perspective, I think that needs to be taken into account very seriously, and people need to think that way. I can do it from my perspective of starting this radio station, which is our studio is in Anacostia. It's, you know, you have to go over the bridge. We've got a huge, we're going to have a huge community input, and we're actually going to be producing a number of personalities that come from the community there. And so we're taking that very seriously. We don't want to, you know, I mean, these people up here happen to be extremely talented people, and I want them all there. But at the same time, you know, we're going to have a C3 on the side that's going to help train some kids to come in and learn about radio. I mean, the community, and so what I'm saying is I think you're 100% right, and we thought about that, which is interacting with the community, listening to community's concerns, speaking to them, with them, is a huge and important part. And so I wouldn't want it to just be, you know, people who are, go ahead.
You know, my feeling is that, I mean, and I wouldn't have too much concern about us becoming too powerful at this point. But my sense is that whenever this takes place, whether it's in 3, 5, 7, 10 years, when WiMAX, when 4G or 6G or whatever it is becomes ubiquitous, and you get into your car, and that panel on your car will look like you know, like an iPhone, and there'll be a series of apps, and they will be either sort of networks of shows. At that point, there's going to be a huge opening for local radio, because the battle that's going to happen at that point is, if I'm doing an internet radio show and I'm delivering you for an hour, I mean, you know, I've talked about this as being sort of like the fulcrum of where commercial radio and internet radio is going to have the real fault lines. The only person who straddles this is Thom. He's actually, what he does is beyond human, so it's not, he's a very bad example in this situation. But if I am competing with a pre-existing terrestrial show, and like Thom says, you divvy up your ad space, while I'm online, I can afford to undercut my terrestrial competitor, both in terms of what I offer, in terms of how much content I'm giving, because I no longer have to service a local market, right? Because, or to the extent that I do through detecting your IP address, I can actually give more content in an hour than a terrestrial radio show can. It's going to destroy the national syndication model, and it's going to open up a lot of room on local stations. And once the radio industry model is destroyed, which it will be because of that development, either people will have to shift in terms of the way they do content, or it will destroy that model. There's going to be openings for local radio. And the beauty about local radio is, forget about from a partisan perspective, it's local, it's not corporatized, and that's a much better development regardless of what the political ideology is.
Now, one other thing that I do, I do my show, I have the Ustream feed, and I've got 2 different audio streams from various places. But on the Ustream, it's a channel, and I only use it 2 hours a day, and a lot of people come to my website and they watch the stream. So at night, I have 5 shows from, I think, 7 to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday. In fact, Jacob Dean, who works with Thom, does a show on Monday nights called Filter Free Radio. They get a chance to go, and because my site gets traffic, they, they're building their own audience too, so that's sort of a farm team. The other thing I can tell you is, if you listen to a progressive talk station, and say Arbitron calls you and says, will you participate in a survey? Say yes. That's how they rate them. And go to the sponsors, use their products, and tell them that you're using their products because you heard them on the Thom Hartmann show or Randy Marsh show or whatever local progressive radio station you have, because that's how it goes. I think we have time for one.
Can I add something real quick? Just real fast. We picked the noon to 3 time period because 70% of any local radio station's revenue is made in drive time, morning drive and afternoon drive. And so that's an area where the drive time is where they put the local talent. And I've always supported local talent. When you were on the air in Miami, I was a regular on your show. Every week I was on in Denver with Jay
In fact, my first time on Air America was filming for you a week after I got fired.
Yeah. but there were all these local hosts around the country when we at the peak of this, and I was going on their shows, putting them on my shows. There's a lot of cross-pollination, so I think that's really important. But I think Sam's point is the most important one, which is that content is king. We've got to stop thinking of delivery systems. I mean, we need to bust up the delivery systems, and we've talked about that. But we also, it's going to be the content at the end of the day.
We're out of time. It's already 9:46.
Bummer.
I was told we have to wrap up at 9:45. Back in the main ballroom, there's all the closing ceremonies and festivities.
Thank you very much.